First one is read-onlys. It looks like some out of offices for Matt, Amy, and myself. Take a look. First one up for discussion. So product is proposing that we do the shared OKR stuff again for Q3, which we did in Q2. I linked to the epic where product talks about this and to the process. My question is, do we want to do it again? Did everyone enjoy the experience enough that we want to do this again? Product is, it is technically a pilot, and so we're not required to do it. I thought it had its benefits, but I think it also had some downsides. So I'm open to discussing it and getting some feedback here.
Well, I can add my perspective is that I think it's useful in having everyone looking in the same direction. This trial we had was probably a little different because it was too draining in a way that we couldn't have much else to look at. So we can keep that in mind when we're defining the next one, where thinking about a shared OKR, but not let that be the 100% of our quarter, and be more product focused, because this one was very much more engineering focused. Having one more where everybody's pointing in the same direction, but it's more feature oriented, product oriented, might be worthwhile considering. But I wouldn't, yeah, I think it would be great. I actually think the pros outweigh the cons from my perspective. But what do you all think?
Yeah, I'll second that. It was nice to have everyone on the same page and all driving towards the same goal. That I really liked. But yeah, maybe I don't know how to say it other than what Andre said. Just it was a lot to focus on. I feel like this specific one, we kind of came into it late and didn't have time to fully plan and get ready for it. But I think that was just this specific case. I don't think it had to do with the process of having kind of combined OKRs.
Pedro, do you want to voice over your comment?
Yeah, I think it's worth doing it again. What I was writing is that we had a bunch of key results proposed in that issue for Q2. So reduce mean time to close S1 and S2 bugs. We had another KR to deliver on the monetization, the shared understanding, some proposed courses for the team. And then we ended up with just the performance of large MR. And I'm a bit confused because yeah, we committed ourselves to that large MR, but I don't know. And this is something that I should have followed up sooner, but I don't know if we were also supposed to go forward with the other key results, or if we're just focusing on one thing. I don't know what was your perception at the time, if it was many things or just one.
My perception was just the bulk of it being so large, it didn't allow for anything else to fit the quarter. We do have other OKRs from our team side, like throughput and training and all that stuff. But in terms of like engineering deliverables, we're heavily pretty much exclusively focused on the performance work. And I think Kai has helped in giving us that ability to focus by not putting a lot of like big efforts from the product side, but we still have a product to tend to. So that's why I think it's important to consider that for the future. But for this one was just the bulk of the work was so large and that it didn't allow for anything else. So that was my understanding, that's why we kind of like excluded every other effort from being a priority. Could be wrong though. Am I wrong though?
No, I would agree. I think I felt like we had discussed this, but maybe I guess we hadn't. Was that because the large MR one was going to be so overwhelming, we didn't want to take on other engineering ones at the same time. The shared understanding ones, like the shared learning ones, we probably could have fit in. I just don't think there was like a strong consensus that those were useful. And yeah, I think we didn't want to try and push other engineering heavy ones on top of the already sort of large one. So
I'll add.
It sounds like everyone.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead, Kai.
I was gonna say, it sounds like everyone wants to do this again, which is fine. I did not expect that, so I'm excited, I guess, that everyone wants to do it again. My only other question would be, how has the managing up been? I know the quarter starting was sort of chaos, at least for myself and Pedro, trying to like align product and UX, and potentially, I don't know, on the engineering side, it was chaos as well. I think that's my reservation going and doing this again, is I'm a little bit worried about having to do this again where we manage up a ton.
Yeah.
But I'm curious.
I wonder, Kai, if that's more related to the fact that this was also a CEO OKR. Not all OKRs, not all shared OKRs will be directly tied to a CEO one. And that gives a lot of more visibility, scrutiny, and pressure. What do you think? Could that be it?
Maybe. Yeah, that's an interesting take. Maybe. I felt like what we had to do when the quarter started was like I had to work with up above me to get like David and Anoop to like rewrite their OKRs to match ours. I know for UX, like they had like 3 OKRs that all seemed to relate to the merge request. And we had to be like, no, we're not doing this. You need to pick like other groups to do these other things. And we're only doing this one. And I think for engineering, it became this like managing up thing. And then we all had the same OKR, but we all sort of were reporting on it maybe slightly differently, like upwards. And I think that was maybe why I'm a little bit worried about doing something again. But maybe you're right. Maybe it's because it was top down and bottoms up, that it was just like in the middle, it got messy.
Having said that, Kai, given our visibility and maturity, I think all OKRs of ours will have a high visibility. But yeah, we can learn. We can totally learn from what we just had and try to avoid the mistakes and use that learning. So that's why I was proposing maybe we can have an issue to capture the pros and cons, like have a sort of an early retro of the OKR. I think maybe the OKR itself, the one we have open, it can act as a retro, but maybe to keep it not less noisy, we can have a separate issue for a retro, and we can dump our pros and cons so that we can let that educate the following one. But yeah, I'll be up to try it again.
And I think part of the management issue was that we were also switching to a new tool to manage OKRs, which changed the visibility, made things seem more visible. Because now, like from my stance, like Christopher had an OKR and Tim and Darva, and like the stuff I was doing was all feeding into there. So if I wasn't updating it regularly, they were noticing, which didn't happen when we were using GitLab issues because they just weren't checking. Not to say
Matt, that will happen. That will happen
Yeah.
if it's not even if it's not a shared OKR.
Yeah, right.
So,
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I think that was a thing that compounded the problem a little bit, that we were trying to switch to this new tool, Ally, in the middle of this new process around shared OKRs and this high visibility OKR. I think they all kind of fed into the same series of problems, or perceived problems, where it was a lot of people were paying attention, or more attention maybe.
Yeah, I think looking at the comments in the Epic for this OKR planning, that we're still going to suffer from this, from having two sources to look at for OKRs, because Ally, it seems, won't be fully ready to be the single source of truth until Q4. So we're going to suffer from that. Yeah, and I agree that that was an impact for the previous, for the current OKRs that we're still, the OKR that we're working on. I'm not sure, like if we're supposed to focus on those three guiding themes: application security testing, adoption through usability, and SaaS first. The only one that clearly I think aligns with this group is adoption through usability. And yeah, I'm as I already wrote in a couple of other issues, I'm inclined to believe that the performance work will need to continue. So that's the biggest thing we can do for usability right now. But yeah, happy to talk in the issue, but my initial reaction is that I would be okay if we just continue doing what we're doing, maybe with even more ambitious goals, but I don't know.
Pedro, I think that's an important topic, and we can discuss more in depth in the issue or Epic. What we've been feeling is like there's a lot of conversation we've been having, including in our front-end team with Thomas and Phil and everyone. Like some efforts will require more than a quarter, and they'll better attract in something else, like a working group or something, rather than a quarter-focused effort. So they can still go on parallel to the OKRs, but we can chat more in the, so that we don't derail the conversation here. It's definitely not going to stop being a concern, performance. So go ahead, Kai.
I was gonna say, I think everyone wants to do this. I will open another issue in the create project so we can hash it out again and try and come up with some ideas and get it going now.
Thanks for checking, though. That was nice.
Yeah. Cool. You've got the next one, Andre.
I do indeed. So just wanted to raise it up here as well. Some of you already saw this because I shared, I think. It's a bit of an update on the performance OKR, the one we're just talking about, the Q2. Me and Matt posted a lengthy update stating the current state of things on the front end and back end. And then Tommy also shared a bit there. So you might want to take a look at those comments there. So very short term, we're looking to enable the virtual scrolling for certain projects in this week. We're just waiting for one last fix to get in. So we're going to start selecting a couple of projects to turn on. By the end of the week, I hope to have GitLab or GitLab project with virtual scrolling enabled. And we'll be able to gather some feedback, and hopefully we'll get to enable it for all projects very soon, but we're waiting for that feedback. Also memory work ongoing, but no findings yet. But yeah, we're anxious to turn it on to see how people react to it. Because more than just the metrics, the people have been working with it. I don't know, Pedro, you've been trying it as well. Please correct me if I'm wrong. The page feels lighter. Like the overall feeling when you're interacting with the page is that the page itself feels lighter. Moreover, it's faster. It does have some rendering issues that we're still addressing with memory improvements, but yeah, we're very excited to turn this on. Yeah, Matt, you have something to add?
Yep, just to add, not quite as exciting, but we're adding from the back end, we're adding caching things for 14.1. That's kind of our focus right now. I think we have 4 issues that 3 different people are working on. In 14.1, one's already in review. The other ones are started. So we're making progress from that front too. What Andre and I talked about is it's hard to really understand or know what the impact is of those caching improvements. So we're hopeful, but we don't know exactly how much improvement they'll bring. But hopefully they'll add a little bit incremental changes. So that's good.
And the caching stuff, I was thinking about this, I don't know, recently.
Yeah.
The way that our testing works is, I guess the first responses will never be cached, right? And then would the cache prime fast enough for responses 2+, or?
I think so. I'll have to look at the actual testing. I think they run it many times for series of users, and it kind of yeah. Go ahead.
There are two aspects. One is, but before running the test, they always visit one page, the Explorer, to cache up the assets and images and all that stuff. And then they have like at least 2 runs. I'm not sure if the caching from one run will affect the other. Tommy, if you know, let us know. But yeah, there is some overlapping between the caching. But more than anything, users will feel it, even if the metrics don't, and then we'll play catch up there. I'd rather have that than the other way around.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just, we'll just need to be able to explain that, like tell that story,
Sure,
right?
sure.
Like, so something to think about if the tests
Indeed.
don't come back that way.
Yeah, good. Thanks.
Yep, that's kind of it. Can I move on to the next point, or somebody has any questions on that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, yeah, I agree that with virtual scrolling, it feels like the page load feels faster, and when you're scrolling the first few files, it's faster. So that's already amazing by itself, and it's a great improvement. And as you said, like to me, when I was testing it, it was mostly hitting on what I believe are still our existing problems with memory, and yeah,
I mean the blank spaces.
things, yeah, things blank, exactly, things blanked out and things. So I attribute that to other things that we haven't addressed yet, but the virtual scrolling is
right.
is pretty good. One question that I have that I haven't looked into yet is the browser find function, and it seems like we are looking to, as you said, enable it on select projects on gitlab.com and see what people think about it. But I think this is one of the things that might come up as something that we would need to fix before enabling it by default for everyone. So I wanted to know, what were your thoughts about this?
So my current thoughts is, yes, we're going to be using the feedback to see if it's something that it's noticeable and it's by users, and we'll go from there. The second is, there's a couple of ways forward on that front. One is we can try to detect that they've done that and we disable virtual scrolling then. That's one way. The other is to offer our own implementation of that feature, which is a bit more involved, but can be done. So that's one of the things we have, because once we have the information on the state, we can have the front end do that search. Of course, it will be disruptive. It won't be the same functionality that people are used in other websites, just like the experience on Google Reader, or not Google Reader, Google Docs. Yeah, I miss Google Reader. So that's the way that we can go forward, is with our own implementation, or just disabling virtual scrolling when we detect that the user is trying to search something. Not all cases will be detectable. Mobile devices won't be allowed. We won't be able to detect that it was done, or using the UI. But if they use Control F or Command F, we can try to kind of hijack that a little bit and detect it, and then we disable the virtual scrolling. It will cause some sluggishness then. That's one workaround that we have theorized. We've never implemented it, but it all boils down to whether this is even a pain or not. And again, like Kai mentioned before, we already have such as you type on the file names. We just don't have it on the code or notes. So that's probably one of the gaps we might have to plug later. Yeah, it's still on our minds. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, I wonder, and I think that's fair that we experiment this initially on some projects on GitLab.com to see what people feel. And maybe some people complain, maybe others won't complain. Without trying to get too much into the what if territory, I wonder if users will understand that it's missing or that it's not working correctly. Because you can use the find function, but it might not return any results. And so you're left thinking, okay, so either it's not working or it didn't find anything. And so because this is a very under the surface improvement, like people don't know that we are now using virtual scrolling. They're not going to look into the files one by one to see, oh, actually the browser find function is not working correctly.
Right.
So people might just figure that there are no results for what they're finding.
You have a point. It's kind of like the problem is that it's a silent failure, right? It's not noticeable.
Yeah.
I'll have to give you some
so
thought.
they won't complain.
We already have the
them,
we already have the case that we collapse files that are not expanded, and in that case the finding page is not as reliable, but we do show them a warning. So yeah, we have to, let's keep talking about it and let's see what the people react with. And even if they don't react, probably doing some qualitative test.
Would it be reasonable or small efforts to track how often people use the browser find function?
Again, it would be partial, as in we wouldn't be able to catch the UI usages, but we can throw something in, I guess.
The keyboard shortcuts. I think that's what we're looking like. The Command F or Control F in Windows. If we were to catch those, we would at least know when people are trying to use it.
It's catchable. Just set up an issue for it and we can take a look at it.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thanks. Anna.
Cool. So I'll move on for the sake of time. Next one, I have 6 minutes. I'll be brief, but we're starting the conversation about the merge request widget implementation alignment. And kind of my biggest question, I'm starting to highlight this to my peers, my front-end engineering managers. And I wanted to check if we do need UX support, are we able to provide that support before the end of the quarter, Pedro, or not? Or is that going to Marcel or someone?
Yes, UX support is more than possible. I'm here talking more of the product design front. I don't want to speak on Amy's behalf because I know she has a lot of work. But in terms of UX product design support, which I think will be the major part in terms of support for this implementation, there's a lot of support. We have Jeremy Elder, staff product designer from the UX Foundations team. He's leading the visual design, so he will be able to support with that. And we have Tim Noah, product designer, who is leading and facilitating and structuring this whole initiative. So, and I'm there to give more feedback, but these two folks are the main points of contact.
Perfect.
Here.
That works. I can answer that question if they have it. The other part is, we think about a way that we won't be able to, we won't be doing the coding, but we will be involved in the approval part of the engineering side. And I wanted to get like a quick sense. Do you think this effort would justify a working group, or is not even? What do you think? Any ideas?
I don't know, to be honest.
Okay. I'm thinking about it, but I'm not sure if it'll be overkill or not. But it has been successful in the past when we're trying to sync multiple siloed groups. It has been useful and successful, but it does come with a bit of an overhead. We have to have a sponsor up above. So I'll give it some thoughts. Next week, I'll be putting some proposals together and sharing it on the issue we created, or Epic.
So just to clarify, I think what I saw you commented, I think yesterday or today, was that it's feasible for other groups to integrate the extension in their own widgets, but we need someone or a team to work on changing the existing extension to match the new designs. Are you also proposing that we share the workload of that redesign?
Yes, in both. So basically, it's extending the current component of the extension to, one, align better with the UI, and second, fill in missing features that their extensions might require. So for example, the secure widget or the license widget might require some features that the component doesn't still support. They would have to extend first the component and then use that extended thing. And we are looking for a all hands on deck kind of thing, but we just have to be the guide, providing the guidance on how to do those updates, reviewing the updates, that sort of thing. And I think that's the best way to get the work started and get the evolution quicker, rather than we own it and we develop that extension alone. We will never get out of the hole and they will never be able to start building. One small correction: they will have to rewrite their extensions from their own code to leverage the extension component that we created. So it's not just using as importing or something. There would have to be some rewrite there. That's why I'm starting the conversations early, so that they might factor that into priorities in the Q3. So yeah.
One caution I would give you, Andre, based on past burns I have on my arms from the last couple of milestones. Changing text breaks tests.
Yes.
Plan on that. Okay.
Yeah. I've seen you catch those bruises. Thank you so much for your dedication, Amy. Very appreciated. All right. I have a few minutes. I want to pass it over to Tommy. I want to hear a quick update on how it's going.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if everyone is aware. While you are mostly doing performance improvements, we are kind of split. We do try to test the performance increases, but also we are trying to edit our tests in a way where we can also have a new pipeline which tests most or like specific tests that we normally do, end-to-end tests for merge requests, but instead of normal merge requests that we like create with one single file or two, we try to do it with a large MR, so that we can catch major things which just break when we use MRs that are around the size that you are currently using to test against. So what we did is, or at least I currently am at it, to add a new MR that is manually created mostly, because the project that you are currently using would be like a gigabyte or something as an export. And we need to export and import it every time. Not export, but like we need to import the exported file every time. So we would need to add it to the main project, and adding a gigabyte, I think someone would complain. Yeah, so I had to like trim it down to just 187 files that were changed in the AMR. And I kind of tried to manually add the discussions, which was a pain, trying to copy paste the text every single time. After the seventh file, it just was like slow. But yeah, I guess that's the thing that's currently being worked on. So currently what we hope to have in like a week or two is we have a new pipeline, which just is called like large setup, and it would run a few tests. Currently it's one test, which is reverting a merge request that includes like merging it and then trying to revert the whole merge request back. And yeah, so it's more on the side of like merging, commenting and stuff like that. So yeah, that would be it from my side.
Cool, thanks. I did ping you, Matt and Kai, on that MR that Tommy prepared. All good from our side. From the backend, I'm not sure if that affects or not having a smaller project, but it does look like we even have some improvements there where it's an unmerged MR and we have unresolved discussions that we didn't have in the previous one. So that's good to test as well. Good job, Tommy. Thanks for the update.
Thanks, Tommy. I think we're at time, so Good to see everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, your week. Enjoy the time off for everyone who's got some coming up. Bye.
Bye, everyone. See ya.
Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.